right, class, as we continue our discussion on the Hunger Games, I wanted to take today's lesson and talk about something a little bit differently than just the novel as we've been doing. I wanted to, now that we're getting near the end of the novel, I wanted to take a second and talk about the government, the Capitol, and their use of news outlets and media, websites and announcements. And it got me thinking, does it seem that the Capitol is fair in its judgment? A lot of what their news sites put out is very pro-capital and yay government, but it also seems kind of belittling of the weaker districts maybe. Does the Capitol, does their use of media seem fair?
No, not really.
It makes me wonder if it seems like to me that the Capitol uses a lot of propaganda. Quick, as a review from our vocab test last week, what does propaganda mean?
It is when a person uses biased information to promote his own agenda.
Excellent. Right. It's when a person or an organization uses uses information that is very pro that organization or pro that person, or like you said, you used a really good word, their agenda. Right. Now, are there instances in our world and in our society that you can think of that this kind of stuff is going on?
I think it seems like Republicans and Democrats try to push their own specific views throughout news outlets like Fox News and CNN and deny what the other news source says.
Right. It seems like that happens a lot, especially when you meet people and they say, or they talk about the news sites they watch and they only seem to watch the one side, Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, all this different kind of stuff. And I wanted to focus in on what you said, which was that they deny what other people, what the other news site says, right? You'll hear something, you'll hear a story on Fox News and it's this, twisted tale of some terrible thing happening, but then you look at the CNN website and it tells you that same story but has all these details that the Fox News site didn't have. But then vice versa, then the Fox News site, the CNN site has stuff that the Fox News website didn't have, and it's very much what is the actual truth? What's actually going on here? And I wonder then, in this age of modern news telling, right? This age where anybody can spout the news. We've heard this term before of fake news, right? All these news sites of things that aren't real, supposedly, or they are real but they're said by opponents or whatever the case may be. And it brings to mind something that you've been discussing in your social studies classes, which I know that you've been working on learning the First Amendment rights. And one of those First Amendment rights is the freedom of the
Speech.
Right, freedom of speech and freedom of the press. Here's a question that I want to focus in on. To what extent should freedom of speech and freedom of the press be protected? So I want you to group up and take a few minutes, do a little bit of research on your fancy school-issued computers if you need to, and come up with an argument for how protected free speech and freedom of the press should be.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I know we're halfway through this. I feel like I need to read through this because all this is catching me off guard. Each part we get to, I'm like stumbling at my words because
Sure.
I look at this. Sorry.
All right, group one. Do you have your argument ready for how protected free speech should be?
Yes. So my group believes that the right to free speech should be absolutely protected. The government is just an organization to come up with and enforce laws to protect the people. One of the laws established is to protect the First Amendment right to free speech. My group believes that every American has a right to speak their mind freely and openly, even if we disagree with what the other is saying. Fake news is real news so long as it can be backed up, even if it is not a popular opinion. As we see in the Hunger Games, the right to free speech is restricted and the people are fed daily lies from the government, so the government retains all power. We believe that this is not okay, and it shows that the government is abusing its power to protect and serve. Our own government should protect the rights granted in the Constitution.
Well done, and well spoken as well. There was something in particular that really stuck out to me in your argument, and that was that the right to free speech should be granted even if it's something that we disagree, even if someone says something that we disagree with. And I fully agree, that's almost a lost respect that people have for one another, right? People are allowed to think their own thoughts and express their own opinions. But let me ask you this question about your argument. So people can say things that other people disagree with, and that's fine. But what about when somebody says something just to cause harm or mass chaos in society? Should, for instance, should a person who yells fire in a crowded movie theater, even when there is no fire, should a person who shouts fire in a crowded movie theater have his speech protected under that case? Even if just to watch people stumble over each other and cause this kind of mass panic and risk people getting injured?
No, I don't think that should be allowed.
Right. So group up again, take another minute or two and see if we can strengthen this argument to really make it bulletproof, if you will, and really drive home your thoughts.
Okay.
All right.
I think we have it.
All right, let's hear it.
We believe that the First Amendment right to free speech should be protected in almost every case. The government is a collection of people organized to come up with and enforce laws, but its primary goal is to protect its citizens. The right to free speech should be protected as much as possible, even when people say things that others do not agree with. However, if whatever someone says is spoken in order to cause harm to others, the speech should not be protected. Fake news is real news so long as it can be backed up, even if it is not a popular opinion. As seen in Hunger Games, the right to free speech is restricted, and the people are fed daily lies from the government, so the government retains all power and puts people in danger with the Hunger Games themselves. This is not okay, and it shows that the government is abusing its power to protect and serve. Our own government should protect the rights granted in the Constitution and protect its citizens.
Excellent. That's a very well written argument, and again, just like last time, very well spoken. And this argument in particular really shows that your group knows not only the letter of the law, what is stated in the Constitution, but also the spirit of the law, what they mean by this, and what are some of the implied limitations, or what some of the implied limitations should be. So this is an excellent argument and an excellent revision. And there's something else that I wanted to talk about that you brought up in both of your arguments that I really liked, and that was how in them you reference back to Hunger Games. Now, this is obviously something that we've been talking about Hunger Games in class, and so it's been on your mind, but you didn't necessarily have to incorporate Hunger Games, but it's a really good thing that you did, because getting practice with that not only helps show how you can pull things from your mind in any kind of argument, but of course citing works that we've read in class or that you've read in some of your other classes is going to help in your AP exams in the spring. And being able to reference literature in these kind of real world scenarios is a huge skill that you're going to want to master and practice at. And so I just wanted to throw that tidbit in there, that was an excellent inclusion in both of your arguments that you gave, and so well done on that. Now, knowing this, as class is wrapping up, what are some of your final thoughts on society and freedom of the press and maybe Hunger Games as a whole. What are some of your thoughts about today's lesson?
I just really liked how we were able to relate what we've been reading in class to the real world. I think it's nice to read something that we already have enjoyed, and it's really cool seeing how we read for fun, but it can also relate to society.
Excellent. Glad you enjoyed it. See y'all tomorrow.